Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. And, well, here's what we've got going here is, I'm a huge fan of the Line 6 HX1 pedal. Right, which has basically all the effects found in the helix. Right, without the amp modeling and cabinets, because I have amps and cabinets for that matter, so I don't really need that, and I'm not going direct usually when I'm recording. I usually mic an amp or a cabinet. So because of that, I used to use the Line 6 M5, which was awesome at the time, except for the foot switches were junk. I mean, they would break all the time. People are making a living replacing the jacks all the time. You know, just really cruddy. And also, the old M5 only had like 24 presets. So they stepped it up to the Line 6 HX1 pedal, which I'm a huge fan of. I have one on my pedal board. However, it came to my attention that the Line 6 people came out with something called the HX Effects. Right? And very similar kind of thing, no amp modeling, no cabinets, all the effects found in the helix. It has scribble strips and things, but the coolest thing is it has up to 9 blocks of effects, right? Or at minimum 6 foot switches for presets. Okay. So to give you an idea, that's about, at minimum 6 HX1s, if not 9 HX1s. And considering the price of an HX1 is about $299 new, okay? Well, the HX Effects, obviously a much more powerful unit. I think it was about $700 new. However, I don't know if it's because they've been around for a while or what have you, but I found one for $350. $350? You gotta be kidding me. Well, I couldn't resist. I had to try it, right? And it has 9 blocks, built-in looper, snapshots, right? We'll get into the snapshots here in a second. So anyway, and I mean, it looked okay online, you know, but it looked kind of cheap or something. I don't know. It just didn't resonate real well. Well, I went ahead and ordered one, and it's arrived, and we're gonna have an unboxing. Okay, so we're gonna have an unboxing here, and keep in mind this is a recreation, because I became impatient and opened the box already. Anyway, I'll go through the motions. First off, take a look at this box. Good night. That's a big box. And it's an official Line 6 box, too. Wow. Alright, so here we go. Please don't try this at home. Only trained professionals should attempt. Here we go. Alright, so we got bubble wrap and paper and super well packed. Okay, and here is the unit, the HX effects. Is that awesome or what? Look at that. Alright, you got inputs, outputs, effects loops, MIDI, USB, so on and so on, right? Pretty amazing. And let me tell you something. First thing I noticed right away, it kind of looks cheap on a video, but in person, I'm telling you, this thing is solid as a rock. And it's quite heavy. It has some real weight to it, right? Just super nice. And super solid. None of the knobs feel weird or the foot switches. It's all very solid stuff. Okay. Now, one con, and I'll show it to you here. Look at this power supply. Why, that's huge. It's weird looking too. Right? Bizarre. Yeah, it's a strange power supply. But it works. To be quite honest, I wonder if you can't get on Amazon and get something a little smaller than that. No, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it yet. But I would definitely like to replace that. It's just too big. Okay, so that's the only con. However, I have to admit it's really solid. I mean, that's what really surprised me. You know, and it feels solid too. Yeah. And I don't know if that's just because it's a pedal board, you know, to be stomped on them with your foot or what have you. And mine on the back has two Velcro strips ready for a pedal board, right? And I thought that's the way I'd use it, but I'm going to end up just using it as a standalone pedal. That's how cool it is. You know. Alright, so there you go anyway. Really read the manual all that much. I can tell you, like every other unit, the presets are just they're okay. Nothing to write home about. However, creating your own presets, or at least editing the current presets, is great. So the very first thing I did is I went to preset 1, and it's 01A. And they call it Guitar Starter, right? And you've got two modes on here, bank modes to choose different modes. And then you have another mode, which is Stomp Box mode. Shows you all the different sounds. Okay, so right here, this would have taken me 6 of the HX1s. And basically, I'll tell you what I have here. I have a bass octaverb, a searchlights reverb, a 1-switch looper, or I can switch it to a 6 6-switch looper. I'll tell you more about that in a second. An auto volume echo, a vintage digital delay, and a glitz reverb. Right? And the HX1 could have done one of those, but not all 6. Okay. And so the very first thing I wanted to do was try out the looper. And you can switch it. There are different loopers. And it's very much like on the DL4 Mark II, right? In the sense that you have a one-switch looper or a full-fledged looper. Basically, the difference is, honestly, is with a full-fledged looper, you can go reverse, right, or even half, right, where it basically cuts goes down an octave, basically, right, and you have reverse as well, right, where the loop is played backwards. However, for most of the time, the little one-switch looper is fine as far as recording, playback, and undo and redo. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to do is kind of recreate my favorite sounds on the HX1, hopefully, right? I mean, it's supposed to have basically the same effects and things, right? So here's what I did. I went to the very first preset, right, and changed a few things, and I used snapshots. And for each preset, you have 4 snapshots. What the heck is a snapshot? All that means is that you've got your 6 effects, right, the ones I just listed, okay, and let's say I wanted to turn on the bass octaver and turn off the rest of the effects. In other words, no reverb, no digital delay, those kinds of things. Alright, and I would create a preset, right, or I'm sorry, a snapshot, that basically would turn on the bass octaver and turn off the rest of the effects, right? And that makes sense, I guess. And basically I found the exact same thing, so let me do this. I'm going to go to the very first snapshot I did. And it's basically just the octaver on, right? Alright, so that's my first snapshot, is the bass sound. Right? And it's one of my favorite sounds, especially for getting kind of a bass sound. So that's snapshot 1. And then for snapshot 2, I basically turned off the octaver and turned on the vintage digital delay and the glitch reverb to just kind of get a clean sound, right? This kind of. I did edit the glitch reverb, you know, because it was kind of high, so I took the mix down on it. And so it's turned off the bass octave. So that's snapshot 2, right? Giving you that clean sound. By the way, raccoons love Pop-Tarts. Just saying. Okay. So then I went and created another snapshot. And this one has my favorite swell setting. Right? Where it swells the note. In other words, you never hear the pick attack. So that's the third one. And there was one more snapshot. And that one I'm still kind of messing with, but basically it has a delay and 2 reverbs. Alright, so those are my 4 snapshots, okay? So here I'm on snapshot 2, and I'm just using the 1 switch looper. I can switch it over to the 6 looper if need be, but for right now I'm just using the 1 switch looper just to give you an idea. So basically I can just run through the snapshots, never really leaving the preset, but getting all these different sounds. Alright, and using the looper I can create then the different kinds of sounds. I can create a loop with that, right? Okay. Alright, so there's the basic loop. Now what's cool is now I can go to a different preset or a different snapshot. Okay. So now I'm gonna overdub on that swell preset or swell snapshot. Now do it again. that's, well, in a sense, that's the HX effects. I mean, that's all I'm running through. I'm not running through my pedal board whatsoever. And yet I'm getting the same kind of sounds and functionality. Now keep in mind, I've only had the unit for, a couple hours or whatever. But it does what it says it does. I mean, it's amazing. And the looper is super handy. So in a way, I mean, this kind of replaces my pedal board entirely, right? All in one box, And keep in mind, this is just the first preset. You have a ton more presets you can make with, of course, different sounds, right? And I mean, this is just kind of the very first one just to try the unit. I think it'd be quite amazing to try different delays and reverbs and those kinds of things. Yeah, if I switch over to the second preset, instead here I have a, let's see, what do we have? A Cosmo Echo, let's turn that on. A cave reverb, right? There we go. And here's a 6-switch looper. Basically the same thing, but with a few more functions. Let's hear what that sounds like. Oops, I had the bass octave on. So there I could do the same kind of thing with the looper. Right. So here's reverse. Okay, so that would be like preset 2. I could create 4 snapshots, one with a bass octaver, and one with a delay, and one with delay and reverb, those kinds of things. And that would be like Pedalboard 2, preset 2. And if you think about it, there's so many presets, so you could get some really different kind of sounds. And for what I do, it's perfect. The fact that it has a looper, you know, looping capabilities, and it sounds really great. It's very similar to my pedalboard, in fact, right? Which is really cool. Wow, pretty amazing. Now, of course, I haven't had time really to, you know, perfect the sounds and create all the different boards and things. But considering this is all I have, and it really replaces my pedal board, right, which is much bigger. I mean, this is really, wow, pretty cool. And considering it, you know, I've never read the manual or anything yet, but it was so easy to use and things, you know. And it made sense right away. So not only was I able to take a preset, but then I was able to change an effect, you know. Instead of a Cosmo echo, I could have used whatever I wanted, you know, a flanger, chorus, those kinds of things. Right? Pretty neat. Sound quality is really good too, you know. Yeah, I mean, for $350, I mean, I'm sorry, that's awesome. Considering my pedal board probably has, at least $1,000 of pedals and things, whereas here it's $350, and the sounds are very similar to what I already had on my pedal board with that HX1 pedal. Now, granted, I had an H9 and a Specular Tempest, which gave me some other sounds, but here, you know, using the effects from the Helix, you can get similar reverbs and things. You know, I'm totally blown away by this unit. I'm really very pleased. Yeah, once you get the hang of it, you know, I mean, it's pretty simple to use. And in fact, I'm sure that after a couple days of usage, I'll be an old pro at it, you know, flipping around different things. And I mean, I haven't even tried everything that this thing can do. You know, I'm just getting into it. But I'm seeing the usefulness of the snapshots and the different presets, right? For different kinds of sounds, which is just awesome. Wow. Yeah. And the fact that it does create all these different sounds. Remember, the HX1 was only one sound at a time. Whereas here you have much more than that. You have 6 with foot switches. And then I think there's another 3 that you can put together. So in other words, I hit one button, they could switch 2 different effects at once. I haven't even delved into that. So I'm really impressed with that. Now I have to admit, the Fractal VP4 came out and is very similar to this unit in many ways. However, it's very expensive. The sounds are really good, but it has no looper. Sad. Now they may come out with one in a firmware update at some point, but as of now, they don't have that. And the other thing is, you know, it's super expensive. I mean, it's like $700. And even used right now, because it's so new, I think the least I've seen it for is about $500. You know, so it doesn't make much sense for right now to get one of those when you can get the HX effects for, you know, a lot less used. $350 is pretty darn good, considering what this does. You know, and it really does replace my entire pedal board. Right? So it's an all-in-one solution, just direct into my amps. Now there's all different kinds of things you can do with it, which I haven't even delved into, as I mentioned. And I will over time, you know. But I wanted to show you this. Okay, so here's my HX effects. And I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see. But basically, you've got bank up and bank down buttons. And then you've got 4 banks, or 4 presets. Sorry. Yeah, 4 presets per bank. So if I go up a bank, right, it goes 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. If I go down a bank, it's 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Alright, and if I hit a preset, right, it basically shows me all of the, or at least 6 of the effects that I've chosen, right? So manually I could go in and turn off the reverb and that kind of thing. But what's more interesting to me is the or the snapshots. So to do that, basically I go back to the mode, right? And this is the presets. You can see 1A is flashing. And if I hit these 2 at the same time, right? You try that again. There we go. And then you can see we've got the 4 snapshots. So the first one is clean, bass, and then the third one is swell, and the 4th is effect swell. Okay? So now if I choose one of these, for example the clean on 1, right? Then it shows me what's on and what's off, As you can see, it's just the reverb is on. And by the way, here's the looper. One switch looper in this case. Right? There it is. So it's always in the right hand corner. I always put it in the right hand corner. Alright? And now if I want to switch it to a different snapshot, alright, I go back out to the preset and I hit these two buttons right away. And now I can choose a different preset. For example, the bass. As you can tell, I have the bass octaver on right here. And still the looper is right there. So that's basically how the snapshots work. Right? Go back out. And then I can choose 1, 2, 3, 4 snapshots. And I'm still in the first preset. Right? And it just makes things a lot smoother than switching individual presets, especially when you're looping. So that is just the coolest thing. Because for example, let's say I want to go to preset 2C, right? It shows me everything, all 6 effects. So go back out of that and instead hit the 2 bank buttons at the same time, and it gives me 4 snapshots. And again, this one is 1 is clean, 2 is bass, 3 is swell, and 4 is flute swell. Wow. So let's say I chose flute swell, right? Shows me what effects are on, and I've got the looper in the upper right hand corner as usual. Very cool. Now just to show you, here's preset 2. Remember, we've got 4 snapshots, all in preset 2. So I'm going to bring up the first snapshot just to give you the sound, and of course it's the bass. Okay, so that's pretty basic. Alright, now let's go to snapshot 2. And this one is just a delay and a reverb. That's multi-tap 4. Okay, now let's get, okay, we're going to bring up snapshot 3. So that snapshot 3 is very much, snapshot 3 is very much like snapshot 2. Okay, and we got one more, which is probably the coolest one. Snapshot 4 is the Cosmo Echo, the Cave, and the Trem Auto Pan. Check this out. This is really cool. How cool is that? Wow. Alright. And so let's create a loop then. That's pretty cool. You're adding the bass. I'm calling up the preset or snapshot 4. Alright, so anyway, that gives you an idea. So this would be preset 2, and then just on this bank we've got 4 more, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right? A, B, C, and D on 1. And then the next bank has, let's see, yeah, it has 4 more. Okay. So there you go, I've gone through 2 presets. right, and come up with some pretty cool sounds. I'm sure there's many more to figure out and those kinds of things. Now for the VP4, I don't know about its bass capabilities, but I do know that it doesn't have a looper at all, so you'd have to add a loop pedal. But the sounds are really good, especially the delays and reverbs. But you pay for that, And keep in mind, it only does 4 sounds at once. Whereas here, this thing is a beast. Does 9 sounds at once. Pretty amazing, And to be quite honest, I was so used to my pedal board that I found the sounds here to be almost identical. Sound quality-wise, anyway. Which is really pretty impressive, considering the price and things. And really easy to get around in, so far. But I mean, there's a lot more you can do with like signal flow, order of the pedals, and those kinds of things. And I haven't even delved into that at all. But just basic usage, I figured that out rather quickly, and it's pretty cool. So I'm going to mess around with it, I had done the presets, delay presets prior to this. I was using multiple delays, and I wonder if I can do that here. I think I can, right? Is making a snapshot where it's 2 delays and a reverb or that kind of thing. Pretty amazing. So overall, I mean, I'm thrilled. You can't complain, really. Pretty amazing. And eventually, the VP4 will come down in price. You'll be able to find used ones and things. And hopefully by that time they will have created a looper for it. I don't know. Alright. So there you go. That's the Line 6 HX effects. Highly recommended, yeah, because it really does replace my pedal board. I mean, I'm still going to use my pedal board. I love my pedal board. But this is a great alternative, especially if you don't want to bring your entire pedal board. You just bring the little HX effects. And for me, it does the same thing. It has the bass sound, the guitar sounds, and the looper. Pretty amazing. I wanted to show you that, and yeah, if you look around, used, these can be had for pretty inexpensively anyway, for what you get. Okay, here's an update. I've had the HX effects now for a couple of days, and I've gotten to know it a little better. And, well, it's quite amazing, really. When I first ordered this thing, I thought, well, we'll try it and see. I had no idea that this darn little HX effects can replace my entire pedal board. Not that I don't like my pedal board, with the pedals I have and things. However, the HX effects, I mean, I just plug into it and no pedal board needed, basically. And on top of that, so another thing I didn't expect was the use of snapshots, or scenes, if you like. To break it down is basically, you've got one preset, okay? the very first preset. In fact, if I go down here, my preset 01A is clean default. Okay? And it's the very first preset. Okay? Now, usually what I'm used to is, if I want a different sound, I go to another preset when I'm looping and those kinds of things. However, there's some problems with that. Okay? For example, if you have trails on, with a sound of a delay, let's say, goes off. When you switch the preset, right, it cuts off the sound. And this is why you would use a snapshot. Because you're basically staying in the same preset, right, but you have 4 snapshots. In other words, 4 different possibilities of sounds. Like you could turn off one pedal and turn on another, and that would be a snapshot. But you're still within that same preset. As a result, it's very smooth switching sounds and those kinds of things. And trails keep going and so on, the way they should, you would expect them to. Right? Because you're staying within that preset. Okay? Now here's the deal. What I found amazing is, you have a ton of presets in this thing, right? And each one of those presets has 4 snapshots. And so as I realize, for the looping stuff I do, right, one of the snapshots is always going to be the bass, right, to where it sounds like bass. And so here I have it. If I hit 2, right, I get my bass sound. Okay. And now I'm still in preset 1A, but I can go to basically I have 4 snapshots. So snapshot 2 is the bass. Snapshot 1 is just a clean sound. Looper is always part of that preset, so I can, just do So now if I want to add my bass, I go to snapshot 2, which was the bass sound, right? Snapshot, which is the swell kind of sound, right, where it swells a note. And remember, this is one preset. So for example, if I go to another preset, right, and it's the same kind of thing, you've got your snapshots. So on this one, the first snapshot is slow delay, second snapshot is the bass, third snapshot is the swell sound, and 4 is called effects. Right, it just gives you a different kind of sound. So if I bring up the slow delay, it's like a totally different pedal board, different settings, different delay type too. So I can loop that. So that fourth sound is this kind of chorus sound, right? Yeah, there's the chorus sound. So basically you've got each preset, remember, has the 4 snapshots. And one of them is always going to be the bass, pretty much. And surprisingly, the swell, which I use all the time, can be another snapshot, leaving you 2 more snapshots, which could be a guitar delay, right, or just a reverb on the guitar, right? And so each preset is like basically a different pedal board, right? Which is just so awesome. Man, for the stuff I do, you know, I mean, I could easily take this to a coffee house gig or what have you, and go through each preset, creating a loop, right? And it would be different on each preset because of different sounds, right? I'm just blown away by this unit, really. Much more than I expected when I ordered it. And I thought, well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I already have the little HX1 pedal, you know. I'm not sure that adding more, more effects is going to help, but I never expected this, I have to admit. Right? I mean, it is really amazing creating these presets and then the snapshots to go with them, you know. Wow. Yeah, so basically this does replace my entire pedal board. I mean, it's just one unit, does everything basically. Does my bass sounds, my guitar sounds, and then the looping as well. All within one preset. And then you've got, you know, whatever, 32 presets or more than that. So each one can be like a separate pedal board, basically, with the 4 snapshots. Right? I mean, that is just amazing. And the amount of effects in here is amazing, too. Man, and what I wasn't expecting as well was how solid this unit is. I mean, I'm afraid the, video, it doesn't seem to come across that way. But man, when you hold it, it's substantial, it's heavy, it's solid. You know, it's just an amazing unit. And they thought it out really, really well. You know, in fact, I was having a problem with it not. It would save the settings of each snapshot, but I couldn't rename the snapshot. So it always came up snapshot 1, 2, 3, 4, and I wanted to rename it, right? So 1 is clean sound, 2nd is bass sound, 3 is a swell sound, that kind of thing. And it turns out I thought it was a bug, with the software, but that's not it at all. I discovered it was just a setting that I hadn't set correctly under the global settings. Once I did that, then it worked exactly as advertised. Man, this is a game-changing pedal, I'm telling you. Definitely one of my favorites. It's becoming one of my favorites, and it's so much fun to create a loop, and each preset be a totally different sound and can create a loop as well, and so on and so on and so on, Wow. So anyway, as I, get used to it, I guess there's one con about it, and that is you have to keep your hands off the foot switches as much as possible because they tend to do different things, Like a lot of times, if I hit 2 switches by mistake or run my hands over it, right, it says, do you want to swap the 2 presets, positions. I have to hit cancel and say no. The other thing is bringing up the snapshots within a preset. You have to hit 2 buttons at once, and you got to be pretty precise. Well, eventually I'll get the hang of it, but it's already a lot better. But that's just familiarity with the unit and using it more often. Anyway, I'm telling you, this pedal is just amazing, especially if you use it the way I'm using it. With the looper always in each preset, it's always there, as well as in my bass sound and the swell sound, right? So that leaves me 2 snapshots for clean guitar sounds. Wow, amazing. Yeah, so I'm totally blown away by this unit. It's the man, it's just super. And to be quite honest, it was what I had hoped the DL4 Mark II pedal, the green pedal, is similar, but is very clunky at best. Compared to this, the HX effects is like miles ahead of that. So much so I'm selling the DL4, which will help pay for the HX effects. Quickly becoming my favorite pedal of all, just because it can do everything you want it to, at least for me, for my looping kind of things, and the bass emulation. Alright, very good. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.